This is Southern California's only 24-hour local news and traffic station, KNX 1070 News Radio. I'm Mike Simpson.
And I'm Karen Adams. Our top story at 5:30. President Trump has pardoned 15 people in what could be a flood of pardons as he counts down to his final weeks in office. Among those receiving a full pardon was Republican Congressman Duncan Hunter of San Diego. He pleaded guilty last year to conspiracy charge for spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign funds on personal expenses. Hunter was weeks away from beginning an 11-month prison sentence, also getting a pardon for former government contractors convicted in a 2007 massacre in Baghdad that left more than a dozen Iraqi civilians dead. All four men worked for Blackwater Worldwide. They were serving lengthy prison sentences.
David A. Katz served as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Reagan administration, now a defense attorney, private practice here in Beverly Hills. He's had several clients asked to petition for presidential pardons over the years. David, thanks for being here. Let's talk about these for a few minutes. The criticism from the outset for some of these seems to be that they're pretty remarkable in the asserting the power sense, right? Because A, the president can do this. It is his power. But B, with these cases, there's not a lot of gray area that at least the critics can find.
Well, the president has this power under the Constitution, but it's kind of an unwarranted, I think, a very troublesome use of it. These are three Republican congresspersons. They were not convicted of anything that could be considered a political offense. One of them was given a sentence of 10 years in federal prison for misusing charitable funds. People gave money to a charity. He was convicted in court and sentenced for using it for improper purposes, and yet he was given a pardon. The pardons also include people, as you said in your lead-in, who were involved in a massacre. I've had people ask for pardons, and I've helped them try to get pardons, but never for anything like participating in a massacre of civilians. They killed over a dozen Iraqi civilians, created a huge international incident between the United States and Iran. They were convicted in court with due process of murder and manslaughter. To pardon manslaughterers and murderers is truly unprecedented, and it will create huge tensions with the Middle East and with Iraq for the trouble. And again, why do it? And commute the sentence also of Papadopoulos. You remember him? He was the foreign policy advisor who blabbed over there in England, and then the Australian ambassador got involved, and that helped lead to the Mueller investigation. And also there was a lawyer who was involved from an international law firm. He also got a pardon. In addition to that, there were some fairly normal types of pardons. There were a couple of people who got very long drug sentences and who had them commuted. But the main story, of course, is the three Republican congressmen that now will not have to serve either any more time or any time at all in prison after having been properly convicted, Papadopoulos, and the four massacres, murderers, manslaughterers from Iraq. It's truly, you can see, it's mind-boggling.
Do you believe that this is going to stir up, you mentioned this in your response, that this could stir up some international problems with Iraq, and do you think this is a deliberate move by the president then?
Well, hopefully it won't provoke tensions with either Iraq or any other countries in the Middle East. But imagine the uproar in the United States if someone had driven through, let's say downtown L.A., cleared everyone out of the way. You can imagine the kind of protest there would be if they had not only beat somebody or sat on somebody's neck for 8 minutes, as happened in the George Floyd case. But imagine if they had massacred 10 or 12 people who were doing nothing else but walking around in L.A., and then supposedly some other country was going to punish them. And now we just learned right now that the Iraqi president had excused and pardoned all of those people, and they weren't going to be punished. Wouldn't we demand in the USA that they be sent here so they could be punished here in the USA if they weren't going to be punished in Iraq? That's just what happened, except Trump put the shoe on the other foot, but it doesn't make it right. It may be constitutional to give a pardon, but it's just not right.
For Duncan Hunter, I mean, that's a high-profile example of political corruption. The message there is, I mean, it's harder to find one other than what? The glaring message seems to be, if you're a big early supporter of mine, then you don't have to deal with consequences.
Well, not only was Hunter, but this fellow Collins were two of the very early congressional supporters, and it seems to be like sort of a loyalty oath. You can do anything. You really can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. Not if you're Trump. He didn't shoot anyone on Fifth Avenue, so far as we know, but people who committed raw fraud, who were committed in federal court, as I say, with all the due process in the world. These are not people who are pursuing an appeal or have some right not to be convicted or to get a shorter sentence. These are people who got these convictions and sentences from Republican-appointed judges, from Democratic-appointed judges. There's no doubt about the validity of the convictions. And here are three Republican congressmen just walking, just thumbing their nose at the law, with Trump, as you say, saying, "You an earlier supporter of mine." You know, it's like that sheriff down there, Arpaio, in Arizona, who also thumbed his nose, not only at the public, but at the courts. And these are also not people like Manafort or somebody else like that who may be coming, who could have state charges. These seem to be people who are going to walk completely scot-free, laughing at the public, laughing at the courts with their pardon from Trump. It's so against the rule of law. It's so against what this country stands for.
David A. Katz served as assistant U.S. attorney in the Reagan administration, now a defense attorney, private practice here in Beverly Hills.